And we are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by The Key, where we talk about this week's new comic book releases, new DC comics, new Marvel comics, new indie comics. For those of you who don't know, new DC comics come out on Tuesdays, at least for the next month or so, before it switches back to Wednesdays. But new Marvel and indie comics come out on Wednesdays. And we're here on a Thursday, May 16th, 2024, to talk about all the comics that we read this week, which, you know, is a drop in the bucket of all the comics that came out this week. Like, what you read is just what you read. Of course, there are more great comics out there, and we'll throw some recommendations your way. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. And if you're watching us live on twitch.tv/thekeegshow or youtube.com/thekeegshow, you can see who our guest is. And if you are listening to our podcast, you cannot see who our guest is. So let me introduce him. He needs no introduction. It's Drew Maxey, aka Drew X Deficit. What's up, Drew?
Oh, you know, not a whole lot. What's up with you?
Well, I went to Chicago C2E2, you know, the Chicago Comic-Con. I met some cool people there.
I was there with you. I met also some of those cool people.
Oh, good. So you caught on that I wasn't including you in the
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not a cool person.
Of cool person.
I am not a cool person to meet.
I'm gonna be honest. You are. So, you know, it was the first time meeting
that's
you
just
in
what you're
person.
saying. That's just what you're saying, like, while there's a show running. Before this, you were just berating me about how much of a burden I was to you.
Yeah.
The entire time.
Nobody knows what goes on this show before we start, but a lot of you know, a lot of tea, you know, a lot of berating. So tea and berating. Anyway, whatever. It was the first time meeting you in person at C2E2, and that's always wild, is to meet some, like, you've been on this show for a year and a half, maybe more.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And the first time meeting you was in person in Chicago C2E2 a couple weeks ago, and it was cool. I liked it. It was fun.
I still, I had a lot. I will say I had a lot of fun. I've been to C2E2 a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This was maybe my favorite year that I've ever gone. Just because of
why?
Just because of like who I was with, what we were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so much fun. Like,
yeah,
going out and doing karaoke with like you and a big group of people, and our group got bigger because people there knew other people there.
Yeah,
like, you know, that was just it was a lot of fun.
I did karaoke twice that week, like 2 days in a row.
Yeah,
and it was interesting, and with two different groups of people, but everybody is a comic fan.
Yeah,
but like people like, sure, you could stereotype all of us comic fans. But like, really the only thing we share for sure is that we like comics. And even then, some of we like different comics, right?
Yeah.
And so like, it's funny how there are different personality types, though, like, I guess, you know, dare I say, Big Bang Theory wants everyone to believe there's like one type, or at least 4 types on that show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
None of them are great.
No, it was really cool. It's always kind of intimidating for me to hang out with people who are like not in my normal group of friends. Just because, like, I don't know, the various subcultures other than like comic book stuff that I'm into is just different from what other people are into. And so like, I'm always just kind of like, man, am I going to end up being like the person who doesn't know what's going on, the person who feels left out, whatever. And I didn't feel that the whole time. It was great.
That's good. Yeah.
I still think you are way out of focus. What happened?
Nah, don't worry about it. I'll fix it.
I still think that at some point, you should do a C2E2 recap episode. Bring in like some of us who were there to all just like talk about it, as kind of like maybe a crash course for people who are like who haven't been to conventions but maybe want to go sometime and just talk about what a big convention like that is like.
Yeah. That can you remind me? Because I got so much shit on my plate. You got to remind me. It's
Yeah,
you know okay.
I'll do that.
That's like okay. That's like an
I'm
extra
about to
episode.
have nothing on my plate, so
What?
the school year's ending.
Oh
So
yeah. Generally speaking, and it's funny because like all the guests on this show rotate every week, and like I'm the only set fixture here week after week. And then it's another month later, and then I see you again. But generally speaking, not just what came out this week. I just want to know, generally speaking, like what comics you like.
ooh, so I will say that when it comes to superhero comics, I'm mostly reading DC stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot of superhero comics. Um,
I mean, that's my bread and butter. I get it.
yeah, I will say no shade to superhero comics, but I read more superhero comics than I wish I did. Because
Yeah.
I would like to be looking at more creator owned and like other genres than I currently do.
Yeah.
But I mean, like for me, if there's a there if it's kind of like to narrow it down to like what I like character based stuff, like character driven stories.
Mm-hmm.
I really like anything that seems to be reflective of and making a commentary on the times in which we live.
Right.
I
Does it
really
have to be this time, or can it be like past time, like
I
Alan
mean
Scott Green Lantern?
well, I mean, I think that book is talking about current time.
Oh, that's fair.
And I really like anything that tries I am huge into anything that tries to like innovate in the comic book medium.
Right.
If you find a new way to do something or find a new twist on how to do something that's been done before, I'm always excited about that.
Did you read the Nightwing issue that was like a side scroller the whole time?
Yes, it did the it was all like one panel, they said.
Kind of. Yeah. Yeah, in a
It
way, right?
used that's called the DeLuca effect.
Okay.
And yeah, it utilized the DeLuca effect in every page. I liked that. I also read the Nightwing that was all in the first person,
Mm.
which my only thing about that was that like I think those are cool ideas, and I like that they are able to do that. I wish that there was some kind of like in story reason why it had to be told that way, as opposed to just like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this,
I thought I thought you were gonna say if there was like a metaphorical reason. For example, the character has a dark secret that only he knows about, and thus on a third person sort of thing, you can't show it as much as it is through his eyes.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Stuff. I mean, yeah, that's kind of in line with what I'm saying, though, is that like, if there was some kind of like in like a plot reason why, that is not a knock on those issues at all. It was just kind of like, I wish that there was just that little bit more.
Like the A tier versus S tier.
Yeah.
And is that what you're saying? It was like
kind of, yeah.
That would have taken it up that notch. Okay. Yeah. I'm with you. You're not like I don't know how to put it. Like you do like superheroes and you like the hope and stuff that comes with it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think that's like important because not all superhero comics are like that, and for a long time superhero comics moved away from that. And And like now they're trying to like come back to it, and especially like Superman is the vanguard of that. Like I don't think any era that comes along, Superman should stray away from that, because I think it's such a core part of Superman's character.
Right.
Is hope. I don't want to read a story where he does not have hope.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You know, I don't think it's a reimagining of a character, because then it's just not that character. But like, what was I saying? Like, Superman is the vanguard of hope. And so when Superman was without hope for so long in the comics, it was like, well, what would be the reason any other character would have to have hope?
Yeah.
Like, there is, if Superman doesn't, why would Batman?
Yeah,
You
I
know?
agree. I agree.
You are reading Superman comics though, huh?
Yes.
These are all just general questions, and I'm like, it's really interesting how like after all this time I can still like find out more things about you.
Yeah.
You know? Especially when it comes to comics, I think, like, because that's the crux of the show. But okay, so I'm trying to look up images for the books that you read. So before that, we just got to vamp for like a minute. You weren't on the show last week. Did you read any comics from last week?
I did. I can't remember what they were though, if I'm being honest.
What
I went.
Are you not liking comics right now?
It's not that I'm not liking comics. It's so I'm getting really far behind because I keep being busy. And
Yeah,
so I'm like
here.
not reading stuff. And then like I just have this stack of things that I'm trying to read, you know, and it's kind of like the weeks are getting mixed up. I don't know what came out when and stuff like that. And so
what's been your favorite recommendation then? It doesn't have to be from this week. Like, what comic series would you recommend to somebody out there out of what you're reading recently?
If you some of the stuff that I'm reading that I'm like really enjoying, actually I know this one did come out last week, but Poison Ivy. I love the Poison Ivy book.
Everybody loves a Poison Ivy book, right?
Yeah.
Is there something wrong with you if you don't like it?
No, I don't think there's something wrong with you if you don't. I just think that I would say maybe if you don't like it, then maybe you just don't get it. Or that sounds pretentious because I also don't think there's like very much, it's not like a super complicated book to understand or anything. But maybe you just don't know what they're going for. Maybe you have an idea of what Poison Ivy is and it's just not working for you. Because it's not that. I don't know. I mean, it's there's a number of reasons, but I really like the Poison Ivy book. It kind of does everything that I want from a superhero comic. You know, and by that I mean like it takes place in a superhero universe, but it is not a hero book. She is not the hero of the story.
She's also not the villain, right? Like sometimes she teeters on that because she kills
people. No, they're definitely taking like a more neutral stance with her, that like she's kind of just doing what she feels is right, even if she knows that it's not the quote right thing to do.
And you like that?
Yeah, I really like it. I like the exploration of her morality quite a bit. I really like G. Willow Wilson, who's writing that book, is very clearly like expressing frustrations with the status quo of like the state of the world through that book. And with villains, you get to do that a little bit more. You get more freedom to do that, you know? You can't have a hero talking about things like, these rich fat cats, they're kind of just getting what they deserve, aren't they? You know, when something bad happens, like your hero has to help them. They can be like, I don't like doing this because I don't think that you deserve this help, but I got to do it anyway, you know?
Yeah.
But with somebody who's like a villain or an anti-hero, you don't have to have that. Like you can just straight up be like, no, I don't, this person sucks. I'm not going to help them.
Yeah. I think it's interesting though that you haven't gone into like an edgelord sort of like corner where you're just
Um,
like, why can't all the heroes just kill all the villains?
I mean, there probably was a time when I would have said something like that,
Yeah.
but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know realistically the the business side of things, they have to keep the heroes a certain way. I get that. And I also don't, like Batman is my favorite superhero, right? The whole
Mm-hmm.
thing about Batman killing people, that whole argument, just doesn't make sense to me. I think he's way more interesting if he doesn't. And like, not because like what makes it interesting is that it's a conflict within him where he does think at times, God, things would just be easier if I would do this. But he doesn't because he knows like he knows himself, he's self-aware, and he knows what road that could lead him down. And it's not the road he wants to go.
Right.
And I like that. Like that's to me, that's an interesting, well-rounded character. A Batman who just goes, "I'm fed up with you, bang, you're dead," is less interesting to me.
Oh, for sure. I think, I mean, and what I've realized, so like, well, okay, rewinding a little, you said you used to be that type of person. I used to be a different type of comic fan as well. Very elitist prick sort of situation, right? Gatekeepy, that sort of thing. It's like, it's all right. I want people to read comics, but I need to be the king of it. Like, that's how it used to be, right? And like
Yeah.
now, it's like, well, no, like we're all sharing this together. We're coming at it from different things, and I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. Like, my opinions aren't necessarily better, though I do think I have some experience in which, like, I am informed through years of reading at the different, variation that there is in comics and whatnot. Um, Shout out to Curly and Sand Guy in our Twitch chat. What's up, man? He says, I also like a Batman who has hope that people can change for the better. Yes. So, fast forwarding is me thinking, since there's different types of media for different people, but there's also like almost like a different level of comprehension for in each medium. There's a whole spectrum. There should be, right? Like a medium shouldn't be just for smart people or just for dumb people. Let's have some dumb comics. Let's have some smart comics. Let's have some comics in between. What ends up happening with Batman is if you essentially dumbify him, the take on Batman is that he was a kid, his parents died, he's angry, so he works alone, and that's that. Like, why would a kid like that want to hang out with other people? He is angry and only wants to work alone. And that's like the very basic, like one-dimensional Batman that tends to get replayed a lot. But I like the Batman that it's not that he doesn't want to, it's that he does want to, and he wishes he had friends, because he would have been a different person had he had friends growing up. He never did, right? Like, and he likes working with people. He's just afraid.
See, I have I have different thoughts on Batman.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I like what the our comment said.
Yeah.
I like a Batman who believes that everyone can change for the better.
Yeah.
Except for himself. I think that he thinks that he can't. And like that's a struggle for him. Okay. That's part of his internal struggle, that he like Batman like would be this really interesting mix of like very egotistical but also like really self-loathing. Yeah. And he would kind of like blame himself for anything that goes, because like he's a control freak, and if it doesn't go the way that he wanted, it must have been his fault. And so like I also think that I don't know if this has ever been explored in the comics. I'm sure that it has, because there's no way that I'm the first person like thinking it up. But like I think the thing about the Robins is not necessarily that, like, my interpretation of it isn't that Batman wants to have companionship and he wants to be, friends. It's more like, or like he wants a family. It's more like he sees broken people and he thinks like, I'm the only person who's like good enough to try to like keep them from going down the wrong path. And so for him, it's like kind of a control thing. He has this just like sort of mentorship complex where he's like, I have to help this person because they remind me of myself, and then you can look at the psychology behind that all you want and what that says about him. That's the way I've always seen it.
I think that there are interpretations of Batman that definitely could allow for that. Yeah. Me personally, I don't. I think that's more of a. I think that's more of a negative way of viewing Batman in a way. Like, for example, I think that like he thinks he's better than people because he isn't, right? Like he doesn't have powers. But I also think that he's chasing the idea that if he becomes better at everything, that everything will be within his grasp, right? Like his control freak nature kind of comes from that. But I don't think that he necessarily is an egotist. I don't think he like walks to a child on the street and he goes, I'm better than you.
No. Yeah. I mean, not like that.
If he looks at a loving family, he's like, oh, if only they knew karate like I do. Like,
I think it's more like he knows that he's smarter than a lot of people. And so he's kind of just like gonna do his own thing, but because to him it's like the better option always. There are exceptions to that. I mean, I don't think that like I don't see Batman really, all the time getting in like a staring I'm using that metaphorically, figuratively, like a staring contest with Superman,
right?
Because to him, he thinks of them as equals. And so like
I like the take if Batman thinks of Superman as an equal. Yes. Like
I would say the same thing about Wonder Woman. Like the three of them, he probably thinks of himself as being on the same level as them, which maybe says something about him, but also that's why he's going to be like, okay, like these people I'll listen to, but like as somebody like Green Arrow or Green Lantern, like he's probably not going to be, he's going to be not so funny, but he'll give the Peter Quill, that's a great plan, except it sucks. And if we do it my way, it could be really good.
Yeah. I think Batman's learned to deal with people in a better way because I think that Batman appreciates having friends. Yeah. To me, the Batman that I like is the one that appreciates having friends. He doesn't go out trying to make friends, but I think that like he likes having friends. I also like the idea of Batman creating a family because he didn't have one. I like that idea. And then Curly Insane Guy says in the chat, I always loved the part of Young Justice animated series where Wonder Woman accused Batman of trying to make Dick Grayson more like him, and Batman states that he took Dick in so he wouldn't end up like him.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like, it's not comparable, but like I taught myself how to draw, and I don't draw that well, but I draw better than average people. Like, like I don't draw industry standard. I don't like whatever, right? And nowadays I don't really draw that much. But I think to myself, nobody taught me how to draw. Like I did like how to draw books and whatever and try to learn myself. And like, I'm okay. A little better than okay. If I had a kid, I would love to teach my kid how to draw and then they can be better than me.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be the goal. They don't have to draw. But I'm just saying that like the things that I've learned in this life make my kid better, I'm okay with that. So I think that like, yeah, Batman taking in Dick definitely fits that. I like a hopeful Batman, and I like a Batman that learns from his mistakes, not in a strategic way. Like the idea that like someone makes friends so they can use them later is a dick kind of move.
Yeah.
But like making friends because you appreciate spending time with people as opposed to spending time alone like you did half your life. I like that idea that like Batman can hang out with a team of like just a bunch of randos if you think about them. Like, it's some, like, you know, sure, there are a couple billionaires on the team, but then you got Fish Boy from Atlantis, and then you got, like, this, like, forensic scientist from Central City, and you have, like, this, like, Air Force pilot from Coast, and it's like, what brought these guys all together? The Justice League, you know? I like a more hopeful Batman, but all these interpretations work.
The thing is too, like with characters like this, they're so fluid and flexible because they've been around for so long that like your hopeful Batman and like my low self-esteem Batman, they can layer on top of each other. They can be the same person, you know?
Yeah. That's the thing, and that comes with like good writing and like not underestimating your audience and reading comprehension, right? Mm-hmm. You know? Anyway, that's a separate thing. I want to talk about the books that you read this week, and I'll talk about mine. And we'll kind of go from there. What books did you read this week? Because there were some good books this week, but I didn't get to all of them. Like everything that I wanted to read, like I didn't get to all of them.
This was a pretty light week for me. I'm usually reading like 10 to 11 titles a week if my pull is like as big as it usually is.
Yeah.
So I mean, this was pretty small for me. But I read Action Comics 1065.
I wanted to read that. I didn't get a chance. I'm very invested in it, but I didn't get it.
I read Batman and Robin 9.
Mm-hmm. I would have read it, and I didn't.
I read Green Lantern number 11.
I need to catch up, but I'm very far behind. I think I've only read like 2 or 3 issues of it.
I read Red Hood and the Hill number 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Image Comics, I read Napalm Lullaby number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I read Rat City number 2.
Is Rat City like Batman Beyond for Spawn?
Kind of.
Batman Be Spawned?
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah. That's what it looks like from the covers.
Yeah, there's more to it than that, but that's probably not. That's a good elevator pitch for it.
Okay. I didn't overlap with you at all, even though those are on my list of books to read, but I didn't. Weirdly enough, I only read 4 books this week. I read X-Men Forever number 4. I read Doom number 1. I read Miss Marvel Mutant Menace number 3 and Weapon X-Men number 4. I don't think I read any DC Comics this week. And there was a bunch of books that I wanted. I don't know. Were there any books that you didn't get the chance to read but you wanted to read this week?
I picked up a few more that I didn't get to. I don't have my stuff in front of me, so I'm kind of just going by memory. But like, I picked up Fish Flies, the Jeff Lemire book, which is like, that's the book I want to read the most, but I'm behind on it. Like, and that book's almost finished now. But I love Jeff Lemire, especially when he does writing and art in the same book. He's so good. There's a couple other things. I didn't pick up any Marvel books this week.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side, DC books were few and far between this week.
Yeah, it was small.
Is it a 5-week month?
It might be, but usually they serve that for they save that for the last week of the month.
Yeah, but then it's all spread out, right? Yeah. Like everything's spread out. It is a 5 Wednesday month. It's not a 5 Tuesday month, but I think DC is starting to gear up for Wednesdays again.
Yeah.
So they also seem spread a little thin. But okay. Was there anything else?
I know that there was. Oh, there was a book. I read the first one and then talked about it on here a month ago.
Uh-huh.
And I can't remember. It was something about necromancy.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to read that because I looked it up.
Yeah, I picked it up and then it was just one that I didn't get to.
It's like Rise of the Necromancy or something like that.
Yeah.
Am I right? Am I wrong?
It's called like the tenets of necromancy or something.
Okay, yeah. I might be thinking about. I might
I
be
picked it up.
smushing two titles together, but yeah.
I picked it up because of
The Principles of Necromancy
Principles.
number 2.
There we go,
Yeah.
Picked it up because of the writing team. It's Kelly and Lansing, and yeah, I like the first issue enough. Pick up the second one, I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah,
but and there, I know there are more. I just can't think of what they are. And like I said, I don't have my books in front of me right now.
Mm-hmm. The ones that I wish I read this week. I mean, I wish I read Action Comics 1065. I wish I read Green Lantern 11 and Batman and Robin 9. But actually, Green Lantern 11 I'm behind on, so I guess I wish I read it, but I wish I was caught up. But what I am caught up with and that I wish I picked up this week, Ultimate X-Men 3. Although I'm not a big fan of it, I still need to keep up with it, and that's just because what am I going to do? Not read an X-Men title? Like what? That wouldn't make any sense. Ridiculous. Miles Morales Spider-Man 20 came out this week. Red Coat number 2. I read Red Coat number 1, and that's Image Universe's like not Geiger. What's it called?
Geiger was.
Yeah, what's the universe called? It's called
I can't remember.
Ghost Machine. That's what
Ghost Machine. Okay, yeah.
So Red Coat, Geiger, Rook, that sort of thing. Those are all this new kind of line.
And they're all done by like Jeff Johns.
Yeah. So Red Coat is about an immortal redcoat, a British, British soldier, and he's immortal, and he meets different people from history that are also part of this like conspiracies and cults and stuff. And like it's just a fun book, like an alternate historical fiction kind of thing. Like he's dead and he's in the ground, and then a young Albert Einstein digs him out of the grave, like a kid. Like a kid Albert Einstein who knows something that he doesn't know. And like there's just kind of a fun to it. Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt. Blood Hunt's been pretty good. At least
I haven't read it yet.
The main book has this crazy ending. If you haven't read it or don't want the spoiler, don't look at one of the most recent Instagram posts I did about Doctor Strange.
All right. Because I definitely picked it up. I just
read Blood Hunt number 1. Definitely,
I
definitely recommend Blood Hunt number 1. Doctor Strange number 15 or whatever that just came out last week. That one was really good too. And that tied in. There's a lot of tie-ins with Blood Hunt, but like essentially it's just the premise is that like all the dark force / shadow using heroes and villains like kind of like turn inside out and like blanket the world with darkness, and all the vampires come out. And like why? Who knows? And so there's some pretty big stuff. What else did I wish I read? Suicide Squad Dream Team. I read issues 1 and 2. Number 3 came out this week. I didn't get to read that. And then Hercules number 2. I loved Hercules number 1. And it's the Disney Hercules. Mm-hmm. And it's super fun, and they have a lot of puns and a lot of jokes that fly by if you're not too careful. Like they have like an Apollo Creed joke as he's boxing.
Yeah.
And like it's like, oh, but okay, but they're talking about Apollo the god, but they're like, by Apollo's creed, it's something like by Apollo's creed you pack a punch or something like that. And like it's just kind of a Rocky kind of joke. Anyway, that's what I wish I read, but I did read 4 books. Out of the books that you read, because you read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. What was your pick of the week? And I know it was, a sparse week.
It was, and I was having trouble picking one because it wasn't like, I don't know, nothing was really jumping out at me.
It wasn't a blockbuster week.
I don't think that any of them were bad.
Yeah.
I don't think I read anything that was bad at all.
No.
I've liked everything that I've read, but nothing was like really like the standout until I got caught up. I had to read 1 and 2 to get caught up to 3, but I read Lullaby Napalm.
Oh, Napalm Lullaby number 3.
Napalm Lullaby, sorry, yeah.
And that's your pick. Okay.
That's gonna be my pick, yeah.
Okay. What is the premise? Because I know nothing about it.
So the book is about imagine if the people who found Superman's, like as a boy,
Yeah.
John and Martha Kent, were like massive devotees to a cult at the time that they discovered him.
Okay.
And so the story takes place 50 years after that. And the Superman figure is gone. He's I don't know if he's dead or if he's just like not in the picture anymore for some reason.
Yeah.
But he was raised believing that he was the son of the god in this cult.
Okay.
And the main characters in the book are a brother and sister who they live under this like religious oppressive regime because of this cult that has spread,
yeah,
thanks to a Superman who was able to like
take over the world with his cult.
Not necessarily take over the world, but like to just use his powers to spread it.
Oh.
And their basic tenet is like moral absolutism. So like you're going to be a good person or else, right? And their definition of a good person is very different from these main characters. And so their goal is to create a world in which people are allowed to choose their own morality and not be told what to think and what to believe by this religion that has permeated the entirety of culture as far as they know.
Yeah.
On top of that, I don't know why this is, because it's like not explaining a lot. It's kind of just letting you figure things out as it goes. But the brother and sister each have their own special powers. The brother is he's described basically as like an empathetic sponge. And so like all the feelings that people are feeling around him, he soaks them up, but he can also give them back.
Does he take them from people?
No, he doesn't take them.
Okay.
He just like there's a scene in this book where in issue 3 they are like actually starting to infiltrate the the temple essentially. And in that temple it's like all of these people who have done this pilgrimage are coming in to officially join this religion. And so they're pretending that they're pretending to be on this pilgrimage as well, and they're just in this big group of people who are like part of the religion already, people trying to join it, and he's just like feeling all kinds of like fear and anxiety, but also like arrogance and this like snooty sense of morality, and it's like getting to him. But he also like needs to give the impression that like he's there for a specific reason and not just there to like help destroy it.
Yeah. And
so he's able to like channel that into a happiness that he can project onto other people so that he doesn't seem suspicious.
Okay.
It takes a lot out of him and it makes him sick. The sister also has the ability to make people believe her dreams. And so
Her
like
dreams, or what kind of
her,
dreams?
yeah, like her dreams.
Okay.
And so they use that, they weaponize it. And so like she'll get knocked out with a tranquilizer essentially, and then force, like she's able to force these dreams, and the dreams that she has other people are experiencing as if it's real. So they don't know that it's real. She essentially creates an alternate reality for people, um for the duration of the time that she's asleep. And
Okay.
she
That's a
they like
lot. That's a lot to. Is it a lot? Like, do they ease you into these concepts, or does it pretty much drop you in?
it is kind of just drop you in. It is not difficult to understand,
Okay.
I don't think. It's Rick Remender writing, and I feel like Rick Remender has like common themes that he's always touching on.
Yeah.
Um, like he doesn't like he doesn't a lot of the worlds in which his stories take place are dealing with things like moral authority,
Uh-huh.
like being pushed upon you, somebody, making you act in the way that they think is right.
Uh-huh.
Characters rebelling against that. Um, Characters living in a world, they're like very dystopian, like a world that seems like it would be perfect, but they don't buy it.
Right.
It's a lot of that. I mean, if you've read like Deadly Class, Low, Tokyo Ghost, um, any of those books, like this feels in line with that.
Okay.
It's cool. I like it a lot.
I will probably I'll pick up the first issue and like see if I'm like vibing with it, because
Yeah.
I mean I talk about this a lot. Like, I don't read as many indie comics, and it takes a lot to like, you got to convince me, like not you, but like just in general, the comic has to convince me to keep going. Um, you know, my pick of the week is gonna seem much simpler. So, Weapon X-Men #4. It was just a 4-issue miniseries to kind of pass the time while we had Fall of X going on right now, right? And Fall of X finishes in like June, so next month it finishes, and then the new From the Ashes comes out July. And so Weapon X-Men #4 doesn't have anything to do with any of that. Basically, the premise of the series is that like in another universe, it's a multiversal kind of book. It's like Exiles, for anyone who knows Exiles, or the What If cartoon, kind of like that in a way. But essentially, in one of the universes, Jean Grey and Magneto, their psyches form to make Onslaught, and Onslaught travels to different universes in order to kill them or do what he wants with them. And so there's a Jean Grey of one universe that has the Phoenix Force, and she puts together a team of Wolverines from different universes to hunt down Onslaught and hopefully kill him. Now, why? I forget why Wolverines, but there is an in-story reason why. But the Wolverines that we get, they're a pretty cool team. We get Old Man Logan. We get like the old schlubby Wolverine from Earth X. We get Weapon X from Age of Apocalypse, which is the Wolverine without one hand. He doesn't have a hand. We get a female Wolverine named Jane, and then we get Zombie Wolverine. I think those are like roughly the team. And so this issue ends pretty good. Like, as far as like a 4-issue miniseries is concerned, dealing with multiversal everything, it kind of ends really nice, and it works. Essentially, I mean, the I can spoil it for you, right? You're probably not going to read it, but like, I like it. I'll tell you the wrap up. So basically, the wrap up was at the end of the last issue, Onslaught psychically tells Old Man Logan to betray his team and that he will spare his world, and take him back in time to a point where he can undo the mistake that he did, which is kill the whole team, right? So in this issue, Old Man Logan sets up the trap for Phoenix to come in, and he sets it up, and Onslaught takes the Phoenix Force from Phoenix, and then it turns out that the Phoenix Force, because the Phoenix of that universe is about life and about living and like was doing good in their universe, that Phoenix Force isn't tainted, isn't gonna turn dark. So essentially it turns Onslaught good because of the feelings of life over regret and that sort of thing. And so Onslaught does a turn, becomes good, and decides to travel the multiverse and try to do good. And then Phoenix sends everybody back to their respective universes. She sends zombie Wolverine to a universe covered in man things. Like everybody's a man thing. So everybody's plant-based. So you can't eat anyone. Because he's like, oh, my universe is dead. Like, where can I go that I don't hurt anyone? And she sends him to a universe full of man things. And he's like, no. And like, and in the end, Jean Grey, she has a spark of the Phoenix left. Her and Old Man Logan are like, let's explore this world. And I hope they get together because it's like an older Jean Grey and an older Wolverine, and it's sweet. I don't know. It was just a sweet little thing.
I'm into it. I like that idea.
It was a cute ending because the end was, let's not destroy this world because this random world they're on, everybody had a happy ending. Like Cyclops and Jean Grey grew old together. We see like old Rogue and old Gambit playing with kids, and like it's one world where everybody got their happy ending, and like I thought it was nice. It was the end of the series. Cool. 4 issues, had a nice ending. I was cool with it.
I like a 4-issue series.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's cool when you know something is going to have like a definite ending. I like that a lot of times. I mean, that knowing that you are getting a specific ending is it's nice. It feels good. Lets you get that like wrapped up feeling, you know. But a 4-issue miniseries, I mean, it doesn't overstay its welcome.
Is that your favorite amount for like a miniseries? Is like
a
4-issue miniseries?
I will say I think my favorite is probably 6.
Yeah, I like
5 to 6. It feels right, but like a really good, concise writer can do it in 4.
Yeah. Yeah. Because really, the first issue doesn't really kick it off. It normally, like, the first issue out of a 4 is like a prologue. And then you get like a 3-act structure.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I like, as someone who writes comics, like, getting every issue is a struggle. Like, am I putting enough in here? Am I making this last too long? Right. And then you got to do that over 4 issues. It's like, you know, are you the real magic there is making sure that you're putting in enough to make the story make sense, enough of a payoff to have the good ending, but you're not leaving anything out that like definitely would be helping it. You know, it's a balance, and it's, you know, you get a 4-issue miniseries. Yeah, you're solid. You know, if you can really make that work.
For me, I like a 6-issue miniseries. I love it because I think that like you can explore things, world building, whatnot. I do like the recent trend that like DC has done recently, where if they come up with like essentially an Elseworlds sort of story where it exists on its own, they give it 12 issues. 10 issues on an Elseworlds seems too short. 12 issues, they did it on DC versus Vampires. They did it on Dark Knights of Steel, though I think that could have been tightened up in a different way. DC versus Vampires, I thought, did it amazingly because they had the big reveal at the end of issue 6, and they did a small time jump to issue 7. You know? Last House on the Lake, or Nice House on the Lake, Why do I get that mixed up with Last House on the Left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nice House on the Lake was 12 issues, and that had a gap in between 6 and 7, I think. And like, great, you know? If that was 10 issues, I'd have been like, what? Okay. All right. Anyway, everybody has their own like thing of like, what is too long, you know? How many episodes per season? How many comic issues per miniseries? I don't know. There's no actual answer.
No, there's no science to it.
No. Because
it reminds me of the same thing that I tell my students when they ask, how long does this need to be? Talking about an assignment. And I always just say, as long as it needs to be.
But you know why that is, though? Why they're asking is because, like, there are teachers that are just like, if it doesn't reach the minimum, I won't even accept it. And it's like, what if you did a good job with it? Like, what if you, for some reason, like, just judge it on the content. Don't judge it on the amount of things. I remember in school, everybody had to write an essay on the same topic across, like, multiple classes. It was, like, all the 6th grade classes or whatever. I think. It was for something. And I wrote an essay that had, I think, extra paragraphs, more than 5. And we had to peer review it, like peer grade it. And everybody graded me down because they're like, you didn't write 5 paragraphs. I think I might have wrote 4 paragraphs instead of 5. And like, but then they gave me all like C's. And then when I finally gave it in, like, I got like an A. And it was like, oh, because I just did my job.
Right.
Whatever. Anyway, enough about bragging about 6th grade, you know? Curly Insane Guy says, I gravitate towards limited series more nowadays, too. I get, there's a purpose for limited series / miniseries, whatever people want to call them. And then there's a purpose for ongoing. And I think that, like, if your ongoing has a very limited premise, just make it a limited series.
I mean, this is the way I think about it. Is an ongoing, like a Superman or a Batman or whatever, you know, they have miniseries built into them because that's what
a story arc is.
It's a story arc or a run.
Yeah.
It's like its own, you know. And so I tend to like, I don't really think of an ongoing as like one long story anymore. To me, it's just like, it's like when you hear the stories about like the Greek gods, right? All the myths and stuff like that. Like nobody ever thinks, well, did this part of the thing happen after this? You know, you just think about them as stories starring that character that happened at some point. And that's the same way I think about like an ongoing a long running superhero story, you know? It's like, that's why I don't trip up about like continuity or like characters acting out of character.
I mean, I'm like, the opposite. I do. But
I mean, if it's like important to your story, there's one thing. Like Jeff Johns writing Green Lantern was steeped in continuity. And it's because it made that story better. But like it all depends on what the specific creative team wants to do at that point.
Yeah.
Grant Morrison's Batman did a whole new spin on continuity.
In the way that all the interpretations of Batman are canon, they're just different periods of his history.
In different ways. You know, because like Batman of Zur-En-Arrh is not a Batman from another planet in Grant Morrison's story, but Batman of Zur-En-Arrh works, and all of the things from, you know, Zur-En-Arrh were there, like the little radio, and you know, Batmite was there, like,
yeah,
you know, I mean, it's, but at the same time, like, if a writer wants to come in and just kind of like, I'm not saying the continuity isn't there, I'm just saying it doesn't matter for this story, I'm okay with that if the story's good.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of what Black Label does, right? Black
Label usually just doesn't care about continuity at all. You know, it It's all, everything is its own thing.
Right. But that whole thing is like, it has to be good. Like, the goal is for those books to be good.
I feel like the goal for every book is to be good.
But... Right, but Black Label really depends on it, because I feel like the whole premise of Black Label is it's not in continuity, but it's good. Like, it has to be, because it's not going to be, it's out of continuity and it's bad. Then what's the goal?
Right.
You know, it's like, at the very least, comics have to be good, whether they're in continuity or not. Black Label is specifically not, but it's also very, like, quality, like, controlled, you know? Let's, the limited time that we have, talk about limited series, you know? Hey. The limited time we have, let's go real quick and talk about the books that we read this week.
Okay.
We don't have any overlaps, so we'll do one yours, one me, and then we can kind of go back and forth. Action Comics 1065, I wanted to read it. This is the third in the story of House of Brainiac, because Action Comics 1064, I think, was the first one, and then Superman, and then back to this, right?
Yeah. And then there's like some branching off tie-ins.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was a fine issue. Just kind of continuing the story. Nothing like super jumped out at me as being like, oh wow, this is great, I really have to talk about this. It's just solid superhero issue. There's some cool stuff with like Supergirl and Superboy in it. I really got a kick out of Superman using the preferred vernacular for Lobo's the Zarnians, and calling the motorcycles space hogs.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, that's, it's just getting to more of the Brainiac story. It's kind of to me, this felt like an issue that's just like getting you to the next part.
Okay. Is this issue skippable?
I mean, I don't know, because I don't really know what's like considered skippable.
Right.
I want to say no, because you should want to read everything.
Of course. I'm not saying bad writing. I'm saying in the whole scheme of this House of Brainiac stuff,
Yeah, I get what you mean. No, it's if you like Superman doing cool Superman stuff, you'll like it.
Which, I mean, should be everybody. But like, tying it in with what we were talking about earlier, like, I don't fault people for Superman not being their number one. That's okay. He's not my number one. Like, I don't fault people for like essentially not liking Superman, but I think if you're actively hating Superman, there is a reason why, and you could just be a shitty person. I think that like actively hating Superman is a weird personality trait.
Yeah.
Like, you can actively hate pretty much any superhero. Superman is the weirdest one to actively hate. I talk shit on Hal Jordan all the time. I don't actively hate him, but what I'm okay with Hal. Me and him get along. He's not my favorite.
We had a whole conversation in Chicago about Hal Jordan. And
what did I say?
I don't remember, but I remember what I said, which was that I like Hal Jordan because, like, he is not like, if he was a real person, I wouldn't like him as a person.
And he would be bland and boring.
But what I do like about him is that he acts as like a conduit to sort of explore personality traits that I don't like.
Yeah.
And that's what I find interesting about him. He is kind of like well-meaning, but like conservative dude who kind of doesn't see all the nuance in every situation, which leads him to have often very different beliefs than what I do.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's interesting for him to like learn his lessons about certain things, and because that's what storytelling is about. Yeah.
I don't think Hal is maliciously evil.
I don't know. He's not at all.
but I do think he is comfortably ignorant.
Yes, that's a great way to describe it. Yeah.
Like, I think that he would show up, like, if he had a friend who was having a barbecue, he would just assume it's a barbecue. But what he wouldn't realize is that his friend is a vegetarian, and it's like a vegetarian barbecue. I know it sounds weird, a vegetarian barbecue, but like you can grill other things on the grill.
Oh, for sure.
You can grill vegetarian options, right?
I'm as somebody who grew up in the punk scene, I am no stranger to vegetarian barbecues.
Yeah, which, you know, and this is not me knocking on vegetarians. Like, on the contrary, I think Hal would bring a bag of bloody pork chops thinking that it's a good thing, you know? Like, and they would not be able to grill it, you know? Like, that's kind of Hal. Like, he's not malicious about it. He's just, come on, man. Like, I don't know. Like, be better, you know? Read the invitation properly. He probably wouldn't read everything in an invitation.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. All right, so that's funny that we're talking about Hal, and we were talking about Action Comics 1065, and then we got on Hal. How is Hal doing on Green Lantern 11? How's that guy doing? By the way, Hal used to be my favorite. Like, I used to love Hal until I realized how boring he was. But I was projecting myself onto Hal, and I was like, yeah, Hal would be super cool.
Yeah.
Like me. Lobo's on a variant cover of this, and he's in House of Brainiac.
So Lobo is in the backup of Green Lantern.
Okay.
It's a little House of Brainiac tie-in.
Oh, that explains it. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the Green Lantern book, I will admit, I have not been keeping up with it, so I kind of just like read this one, was like, all right, well, what I understand, I'm just gonna understand. What I don't.
Yeah.
For the most part, those superhero books are designed for you to just like pick up one and kind of have an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
They're pretty good about that. And I think that this one was too. I will say that what I loved about this book is that it featured almost all of the Earth Green Lanterns.
Really?
Which makes me want to go back and like read the ones that I'm missing. Cause like there's, you know, in this, so in the Green Lantern book right now, there's basically just like, there's like a federation of planets. I can't remember what they're called, but they're basically like a UN of planet.
Yeah.
And Hal is like not one of the official Green Lanterns anymore.
Yeah. By the way, we don't have too much time left. We still got to cover everything else.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, it's what I liked about it was, you know, it has Simon Baz in it. It has Joe Mullen in it. It has Kyle Rayner in it. And they're like small parts, but it feels like they were bigger parts leading up to this issue. So, and you know, it's more of Hal Jordan being like, hey, something's wrong in like the space government. Let's go find out what it is and fix it, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's that.
Yeah. I like a lot of Green Lanterns better than Hal. Like, so Kyle Rayner and John are like two of my favorite.
John Stewart is my favorite Green Lantern. He's the best.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with Kyle in the books and John in the animated series. So, like, those are my two faves. And so, but I do like Joe from Far Sector. Far Sector was the Green Lantern Far Sector. And then is Teen Lantern here, the little girl?
Yeah, I haven't seen her.
Okay. So I don't know much about her other than she was in Young Justice, and I read Young Justice. She was in it. But other than that, I don't know what she's up to these days. But you know, I read a bunch of X-Men books this week, and then also Doom #1. Doom #1 is a one-shot, and I was very disappointed, not in the story, but the fact that it was a one-shot, because it makes it just seem like Doom's getting another ongoing, and he's not. It's just a one-shot of an alternate universe where Galactus comes in and he kills everybody and eats Earth, and he eats a bunch of other planets. So it's kind of talking about this universe where the only two people left that we know is Doctor Doom and Valeria Richards. And it's cool if you like their interplay, and the fact that like every other hero is dead, both in the cosmos and on Earth, and nothing can stop Doom, or nothing can stop Galactus, and Doom is gonna try, you know. So it's kind of cool. It's a cool one shot, but also you didn't have to read it because it just exists within its own, which is within that one shot. That's it. So I was excited for an ongoing. It's not an ongoing. Marvel and DC put number ones on their one shots, and I don't like it. It's more Marvel than DC. But like, stop putting a 1 on your one shot. Put a 1 and a shot on it. Like,
yeah,
you know, if you want to do it. But I think that it's like blatantly like misrepresenting what the book is. Though on the cover of this, it does say 1 and it says like supersized one shot.
Yeah,
cool. Like on this one, but there have been one shots that have a number 1 on the cover because they want to sell it as a number 1 book, and
right,
it's misrepresenting, you know, everything. That's Doom number 1. And then I mean X-Men Forever number 4, huge convoluted story about how Hope came to be. Hope Summers, the mutant messiah, what her relationship with Phoenix is. It's weird. Essentially, spoiler alert, the Phoenix is her other parent.
Yeah.
Not Jean Grey, but the Phoenix Force itself kind of impregnated in a way, not through sex, but like through magic Phoenix Force stuff, impregnated her mother. That's how Hope came about. Okay. That's really what this issue divulges. That's it.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. It's weird. It is what it is. That's X-Men for you, though. I'm excited for you, Drew, to jump on the new run, the one that you like. You said there was one that you were looking forward to. X Factor?
I think Mark Russell is writing
Yeah.
X Factor, and he's just a guy whose stuff it doesn't matter what it is, I'm going to read it.
I'm excited for you, but if you want the challenge, because it's a new restart with X-Men, give me those first issues. Just read the first issue of each of these titles and see if you get hooked on X-Men.
Listen, I'm not going to commit to all of them, but I'll check a few of them out.
The main X-Men titles?
Maybe.
Okay. You don't have to do the individual like Phoenix is getting her own series. You don't have to do issue 1 of that if you don't want to. But like X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, and then Exceptional X? No. There's a Kitty Pryde one. I forget what it's called. But anyway, the point being, those are the 3 X-Men titles, and then there's X-Force and X Factor. X-Force might be cool too. But, you know, give it a shot. Just give 1 issue. I want to see if you can come over to my side.
We'll see.
Okay. Tell me how real quick, let's do like 10 seconds for each title. Okay.
Right.
We're gonna, you know, condense everything. Red Hood and the Hill number 4.
It's cool. I like Red Hood doesn't get the best books. This one is it's doing all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Picking up or slowing down?
Picking up.
Okay. Batman and Robin number 9.
It's a manga.
Is that because, I mean, Damien is a manga fan, right?
It's structured like a manga.
Interesting. Okay. We don't have time to get into it, but like I'm interested in what.
Even I mean, and the art is also very clearly manga inspired, not just in the designs, but in like the layout of the art on the page.
Okay, but it's still going left to right, right?
Yeah.
Because that's my thing. I don't want to be a hater, but I read things left to right. That's just me. it takes a lot of like rewiring my brain to go.
You get used to it after a while.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What did I talk about? Oh, I talked about those three. And then, I mean, last book on my list was Miss Marvel Mutant Menace #3. I liked it a lot, especially if you like teen romance or romance in general. I think
Is this the one?
I think I'm too old now to say I like teen romance, but like I do, like I just believe in love. It doesn't have to be teens. I'm just saying that like CW shows and all of that, you know, I like that.
Is this the one that's written by the actress who plays Miss Marvel?
It's co-written, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Aman Vellani. I don't know who the other writer is, but yeah, basically her and Red Dagger comes in. There's a nice thing because you know how like the whole will they won't they is just kind of this false binary of like will they won't they, and it's nice in this book they kind of are like it's not a will they won't they kind of agree that like look, we can just take our time, we don't have to do anything. I just want to know that like you feel the same way about me that I do about you, and like that's all we got to do. Just let me know it's real. And she's like, it's real, and we're like, okay, we're two superheroes. That's all we got right now. Like I like that, and it's kind of just sweet. It's like you don't have to commit to anything. It's a hard time in everybody's lives, but at the very least, can we just agree that like our feelings are real? I wish real life was kind of like that sometimes. Like, can we just agree? And then we just kind of like figure it out. Anyway, cool. And then I think Rat City #2 is your last book.
Yeah, I wish I had more time to talk about this one. It is. Well, I'm going to try to say this as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Something happened in the main Spawn title back in 2019 that reverberated into alternate universes. And that's where this is picking up. It's a futuristic story about a former soldier who got injured and is now like not a soldier anymore. And because of something that happened in the main Spawn book, he now has like Spawn powers.
Okay. Worth picking up? Not? Do you have to be a fan of Spawn to like it?
I don't think you have to be a fan of Spawn to like it. In fact, it doesn't feel like a Spawn book at all, which surprised me. It feels more just like a futuristic, almost like cyberpunk superhero book.
Okay.
That also has Spawn stuff in it.
It's interesting that it's just called Rat City. There's no hint that it's anything related to Spawn. You have to like look at the cover and be like, this kind of looks like Spawn. What's going on?
Yeah, you know? And that's kind of what interested me in it because I like Spawn as a concept, but I think a lot of the writing in Spawn is just not good.
Yeah, I mean, and also like they have Gunslinger Spawn, which obviously like uses the name Spawn in the title to show you like, yeah, it's a Spawn book. This one's going the complete opposite where it's called Rat City. It is a Spawn book, but also it's kind of more subversive in that way. So interesting. Okay. First things first, thank you so much for coming on this show. I always appreciate having you, and it's just me and you here shooting the shit, talking for the first part of this episode about Batman and everything. But I love having you on. Where can people find you to go to you directly? Where can they find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Let's see. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on TikTok. All the same name, Drew X Deficit. What do I got coming up? I'm working on something. I have worked on something, I should say. My part of it is finished now. That is really exciting, but I can't talk about it yet.
Okay.
I did a back at C2E2. I did a panel discussing video games with two of the guys I've met from TikTok. Cody Collects Comic Book Stash. You can find that on YouTube. It was a really good conversation. It was a really good panel under the name Memory Card, a nostalgic video game discussion. Yeah, that's it. That's all I can say now.
All right. I do want to tell you something that came up. I was watching, there's a guy on YouTube called Watchtower Database. I don't know if you know him.
Nope.
He did a video on Mr. Mixospitalik and the history of Mr. Mixospitalik, and could they possibly be all the Mr. Mixospitaliks across all the different things.
I saw this video, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I commented on it saying, I don't know about other people, but the version I wrote, this is true.
There is, I don't think he talks about the video game, but he shows the video game. He shows the mixing from Cosmic Chaos.
And he mentions, like, the whole premise is the Mixospitalik who is in all of these, are they the same one?
Literally the same.
Yes.
That's traversing the multiverse.
And in my version of Mixospitalik is that doesn't really show up in the game at all, besides like a tiny little Easter egg. But that is the case. He is the same one, and he is just like they cut it out of the game. They cut it out of the script, but there was supposed to be he had like a cell phone that had an app on it, like Tinder, where he's swiping through different Earths of the DC multiverse, trying to match with a Superman that he wants to go annoy. And yeah, that was like a joke that got cut out of. We redid the intro because it was just getting too long.
Yeah, and
then we threw it in later in like just a little quick thing.
Okay.
That he talks about. But yeah, so this is the same Mixospitalik.
Okay, all right. Anyway, shout out to Watchtower Database. They do great stuff. They do great work, you know. Very, very good YouTube stuff. Thank you, Drew, so much for coming on this show. Thank you to everyone out there who is watching and or listening. If you're watching us live on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, like Curly Insane Guy, shout out to Curly Insane Guy. Also, Curly Insane Guy said, definitely grabbing X Factor and Dazzler because of the cast. I don't know the cast in Dazzler, but X Factor, I'm very curious on what's going on. But you know I'm going to be reading because it's an X-Men title, so it is what it is. You could also be watching us on youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, or SoundCloud. Whichever way you like to listen to your podcast, we are there. We're all over the place. We're also on social media, on TikTok and Instagram at The Keeg Show. We're also on Facebook, Threads, Twitter, that sort of thing, at The Keeg Show /The Keeg Show, whatever applies. We're all over at The Keeg Show. That is pretty much it. Comic Talk that we're doing right now, that's every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Like, comment, subscribe, follow. Let us know you're out there. Write a review. Do your thing. Let us know you're listening. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. X-Men 97 After Show and the Keeg Talks and State of X and whatnot. So we got multiple shows. Just follow us on Instagram or TikTok, and we'll try to keep you updated with everything. That's pretty much it. Right now, I'm on a game show, Person, Place, or Thing. Follow me at This Is Dimithri, pretty much on any major social media.
You're not just on a game show. You're basically the star of the game show.
I'm the record-breaking winner right now. So 18 wins in my pocket. And so right now I'm the record holder for Person, Place, or Thing Season 1. Who knows what'll happen with Season 2? I'm not on it, but will somebody break my record? Let me know. Let me know when they pass 15 wins, and then, you know, I'll start cheering your demise when you start getting closer. But no, I wish all the contestants in Season 2 the best. Yeah. That's what I've been up to. Follow me at This Is Dimithri. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for coming on, Drew. Once again, I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been another episode of Comic Talk for the week of May 16th, 2024. Take care, everybody. Bye.